of the program where we have to say, fasten your seatbelts, keep your hands and arms inside. You're about to have an experience. And this next portion of our program, I think, is to really expand how you see what is possible when you drive culture and community. Our next speaker, Chester Elton, if I had to describe him in a couple of simple principles, the first is where he spent most of his career. I think he has lived the principle from The Art of War that talks about strategies and tactics. That strategy without tactics is the slowest path to victory. But tactics without strategy is just the noise before defeat. And sometimes we get really noisy chasing a lot of tasks and to-dos. So you have to have both. You have to have strategy and tactics. And I'm one of those who believes in something that I know Chester believes deeply, and that is culture eats strategy for breakfast. And it's about creating a culture of kindness, because that's where everything changes. Right back to where we began this morning. Community and culture lead. Politics, policy, everything else follows. Chester is a best-selling author. He has traveled the planet helping organizations build the kind of community and the kind of culture that produces extraordinary results. So fasten your seatbelts, buckle up your chin strap, and please welcome to the stage Chester Elton.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Delighted to be here. Just really, really delighted. Hasn't it been wonderful so far? A round of applause for everybody. Yeah. So, as was mentioned, I really have had the honor to present to a lot of different organizations in a lot of different places all around the world. And as you might guess, when you speak a lot, you watch other speakers and you say, well, that was good. And what makes a good keynote speech? What makes a good presentation? And I've come to the conclusion, after years of doing this, that the quality of any great keynote comes down to one factor. And that is the volume of applause that welcomes the speaker to the stage. So if you want this to be world class, you got to do better than whatever that was you just attempted, okay? Here's Chester! Well, wasn't that kind. It's a cheap trick, but I like it. I want to introduce you to my co-author, Adrian Gostick. He's the good-looking one with the hair. We have been studying culture and leaders and teams for well over 2 decades. And it's really interesting. As we traveled, we picked up some fun nicknames, because what we found in all the research that we've done for literally over 2 decades is the key factor, the common element, that common thread that was always present in every great leader, in every great culture, in every great team, was gratitude. Isn't that wonderful? And as I was talking to Khosrow and I was talking to Curtis, kindness and gratitude are constant companions. You can easily substitute one for the other. And so it's interesting, as we traveled, we picked up some fun nicknames. You know, we worked with DHL in Bonn, Germany, and they dubbed us the Deacons of Dankeschön, which was kind of fun. The Ministers of Motivation, the High Priests of Praise. One of my favorites was, we were called the Dalai Lamas of workplace traumas. That was very clever. But Adrian and I both grew up in Canada. Any Canadians in the room? Or excellent, can locate Canada on a map? Been to a hockey game? Yeah. Well, the largest newspaper in Canada is the Toronto Globe and Mail, and they dubbed us the Apostles of Appreciation. Total props at your high school reunion. So my brothers and sisters here in Salt Lake City is the Apostle of Appreciation. I'm not here just to give you the case numbers and the study zone. No, I'm here to preach and to teach the power of kindness. Can you get an amen? Amen. Can you put your hands in the air, let it sway, give me a little hallelujah. Going to be more fun if you participate. Yeah, there we go. I mean, you're sitting right up front. Yeah. So I want this to be as interactive as we possibly can be. And so I'm a big fan of symbols and rituals. And we developed this little mascot, this symbol of kindness, this symbol of gratitude. And it's the carrot. We're going to call him the kindness carrot today. And it's really interesting. You know Aesop's fable, the donkey wouldn't move, and he offered him a carrot. And I want you to win some of these carrots. I brought a few with me. I'm not taking them home. So for the first carrot of the day, if the carrot is the symbol of kindness, the symbol of gratitude, what would the opposite of the carrot be? Just yell it out. Stick. Who said that? Raise your hand. Incoming in the back there. Ooh, and he caught it. Give him a little round of applause. Excellent. I know what you're thinking, Roland. I've got more, so pay attention. Okay, here we go. So I want to talk to you about this culture of kindness. How do we develop a culture of kindness? And does it benefit us in ways more than just making our mamas proud? Well, we've heard some talk about this already today, and I'm really interested to talk to you about a culture of kindness starts with assuming positive intent. I love what Tim talked about the way we talk to people, the way we don't judge people by their covers, right? We get to know them a little bit, because sometimes we can get the wrong impression. We see something and we interpret it the wrong way. I found this video of someone that assumed negative intent. Maybe you've seen something like this. This is a guy who's doing something nice for his partner, his wife there. Maybe it's an anniversary dinner, he's cooking up a great meal and putting out the flowers and getting ready for her to come home. And there she is at the door. This is, easy to assume negative intent on that one, right? Yeah. That's why I'm a dog person. Yeah. Anyway, I love this quote, in the recent conference of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Elder Gary Saban said, "We will never regret being too kind. In God's eyes, kindness is synonymous, you know what I'm talking about, with greatness. Part of being kind is being forgiving and non-judgmental." We assume positive intent. It's interesting, we work with a lot of companies, and I ask leaders, how many of you think that honestly somebody woke up this morning that works for you and said, "My goal today is to screw up 3 times before lunch," right? No, people want to work hard. They want to do a good job, and they're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. We can fix mistakes. Assume positive intent. People want to be good. People want to be kind. I love the power of the pause. Take a breath. Remember Tim talked about it. I love that presentation. Just take a deep breath. Count to 10, right? The power of the pause. Give it a beat. And I love that we had so many faith leaders here today. One of my favorite quotes is from the Buddha, where he said, "Every word that passes through your mouth should go through 3 doors. And the first door is it true? Is it true? The second door, is it necessary? But the third one you're going to love, is it kind? Is it kind?" And think about that. If every word that passed through your mouth went through those 3 doors, how much deeper would your relationships be? How much more fun would it be to work where you work? How much safer would it be for you to be maybe a little different and maybe think a little different? Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? I love this. I love it when we quote ourselves, right? Whatever anybody says or does, assume positive intent. Your whole approach to a person or a problem is very different. When leaders assume negative intent, they can quickly become angry and annoyed by those that bring them problems. They blame, they scapegoat. Not my fault, your fault. Why would you do this to me? When you assume positive intent, it's all about what's the issue, what's the problem? Let's figure it out. So how do we apply this? It's really interesting. I've got a really interesting friend. His name is Gary Ridge. He just retired as the CEO of WD-40. How many of you have a can of WD-40 somewhere? More than one can? Because they never run out. Yeah. So for the carrot, for the skill testing question, you're going to want to be a part of this. WD-40, we've all got one. What does WD-40 stand for? Anybody know? Yeah.
Water displacement 40th try.
Yell that out.
Water displacement 40th try.
40th try. Give it up. Give a big round of applause. There we go. So here's their culture. Here's their culture. Water displacement 40th formula, okay? Is we don't make mistakes at WD-40. We have learning moments. Think about how kind that is. We don't make mistakes, we have learning moments. The teacher's in the room, right? Do your students make mistakes? Is that a learning moment? Absolutely. He said, did we make 39 mistakes before we got to the 40th formula? We had 39 learning moments. If you go to their headquarters in San Diego, and it's really cool, they call their culture a tribal culture. We stick up for each other, we defend each other, we feed each other, we celebrate. It's a tribe, right? They've got a big teepee it's really kind of fun. He said, and what they do is on the steps between the first floor and the second floor of the headquarters at WD-40, they've written the 39 formulas that didn't work. How great is that? They celebrated the 39 formulas that didn't work. Well, here he is. He's this delightful Aussie that lives in San Diego, and I just hit the blackout button. What did we do there? There we go. There he is. He said, let's not waste a good crisis. And there's always a crisis, right? It's supply chain, it's a pandemic, it's the economy's up and down or whatever. He says, everywhere people go, they'll hear about the horror. When they come to work for us, I want them to hear about hope. Because we don't vilify people, we're not mean, we educate. He says, look at this. I don't know why there we go. Let's go back. He says, our way that we work through the crisis is we have no lying, no faking, no hiding conversations. We communicate every day. We focus people on development, and look at that common thread, gratitude tied to our core values. We celebrate, we grow, we develop, we are kind to each other. So, what did it mean to his business? In 1997, when Gary took over, they were a $250 million company. That was their market cap, mostly North America. By 2023, their market cap went to $3.5 billion, and they are a global organization. They had record earnings by 2023 coming out of the pandemic, 99% employee engagement, which is a ridiculous number. It's never been that high. He only has 400 employees. I said, Gary, that's 5 people that are not engaged. You've got to find those guys. Coach them up or coach them out. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that was funnier than you did, but that's okay. A 300% increase in market cap. Yeah, does being kind, does it pay off? Absolutely it does. And this is their motto. We exist to create positive and lasting memories in everything we do. We solve problems. We make things work smoothly. We create opportunities. So my fellow brothers and sisters here in Salt Lake City, Utah, it's grease in a can. It's grease in a can. If they can do it with grease in a can, can you do it? Can I get an amen? Amen. Absolutely you can, right? So we took a look and we said, okay, this whole thing about gratitude and being kind, how does it work like on big things? So we took a look at NASA. And we got to meet a really interesting guy named Chris Hadfield. Now, I've kind of given it away a little bit, but I'm going to turn on this microphone here and come down and talk to somebody here that I think is deserving of a carrot, and it's you, man, because I just appreciate the glasses and the follically challenged. So your name is?
Dan.
Dan. So Dan, this is Chris Hadfield. Met Chris, kind of an interesting guy. Looking at that picture there, could you define his occupation? Does he look like a biology teacher to you, a firefighter, an after-school driving instructor, or an astronaut? What's your answer to that?
I'm going to go with astronaut.
Yeah, I kind of gave it away there, didn't I? Yeah, he's an astronaut. Congratulations, you won the kindness carrot. Give me a little round of applause. Yeah. So now you'll notice that he's a Canadian astronaut. I know what you're thinking. Canada has astronauts. Yes, we do, okay? We've had 3, and nobody more famous than Chris Hadfield. Really interesting. We met him at a conference in southern Alberta, Lethbridge, Alberta. It was really interesting. He was the commander of the International Space Station. He was one of less than 300 people that took a walk in space. Think about that. And if you're Canadian, you see that Canadian, that's our guy. Now, he did so much for education and whatnot. He had these podcasts and webinars that he did from the space station to get kids involved in science and math and all that kind of cool stuff. And so as a tribute, when he was all done, they put him on the back of the $5 bill in Canada. Everybody, ooh, ah. Now, normally to get in your country's currency, you'd have to be royalty or dead. Or both, right? Now, you don't understand what a big deal it was to get him on the back of the $5 bill is because of who he replaced on the back of the $5 bill, and that's hockey players. Yeah, you replace hockey players in Canada, you better be a big frickin' deal, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, let me tell you the story of the team that he took up there. So 3 cosmonauts, 2 astronauts, and the Canadian commander. The difference in ages was 31 years between the youngest astronaut and the oldest cosmonaut. different cultures, different languages, different food. They trained for 12 years before they went up with no guarantee that they'd actually go. Think about that. Well, they were up there for 3 months, right? Most productive 3 months in the history of the International Space Station. So what does NASA do? They debrief, right? So what was different about this team? So they talked to Chris. I call him Chris because we met. And the point is, he said, the first thing we did is we knew their stories. What are you going to remember the most from today? You're going to remember the numbers and the charts? You're going to remember the stories. Will you ever forget the story of the beanbag lift? I won't. Know your people's stories. Where did they come from? How did they get here? How do you go from being one of the most revered philanthropists in Utah when you saw them mowing lawns? Know the story. How did they get here? What do they want to accomplish while they're here? Where do they want to go from here? He said, and we knew each other's stories. When he went to Russia to work with the cosmonauts, he didn't stay in NASA housing. He took public housing, and he learned to speak fluent Russian. What do you think that meant to those cosmonauts? Because what's the joke, right? If you're multilingual, you know more than 2 languages. If you're bilingual, you know 2 languages. If you only know 1 language, you're probably an American. Right. Learn their language, even if it's only how to say hi, goodbye, and thank you, and please. It means so much. They knew their stories. He said, but the biggest difference between this team and why we were so productive was because we had one unwritten rule. He said, by the way, you learn how to obey all the rules in space. You know that thing that was Sandra Bullock and then they break all the rules? They would have been dead in like 3 seconds. That would have been the shortest space movie ever if it had been accurate, right? Because when you break the rules in space, people die. So we obeyed all the rules. He said, but the reason we were so productive, the reason we were so good is we had one unwritten rule, and it was this, that every astronaut had to perform a random act of kindness for every other astronaut every day. And it was never anything big. I'll clean up. I'll do the calculations. I'll cook the meal. So it was really interesting as we were talking to him, and the teachers in the room, what do you do when your kids, you keep a little chart and everything. They said, did you have a chart, like, and every day you had to put a star, because you're like in space? That would have been cool. And he went, no, we didn't, that would be stupid. The point is, I said, well, why was that the differentiator? And he said it was because of the message it sent to everybody on the team. When we served each other, when we cared about each other, these little tiny acts of kindness. He said, do you know what? 3 months, 6 grown men in a very confined space. He said, we never had a heated argument. No one ever lost their temper. Because when we served each other in these little ways every day, the message was, you're on my team, I'm cheering for you, I care about you, I love you. The most productive team in the history. And what was the key factor? One kind act a day, every day. Genius. Give it up for Khosrow. And it came down to the little moments differentiate the best teams. It's the little things you do. The stopping in to say, how are you doing? I heard your mom is not doing well. Or, hey, can you come to lunch with me? Let me treat you to lunch. Crazy idea. Bring some donuts. Right? I love this from the Talmud. The highest form of wisdom is kindness. All our spiritual leaders, the common thread in every sacred text is be kind. The highest form of wisdom is kindness. And I'm here to tell you that kindness has the power to heal. And let me tell you why. Adrian Gostick's son is Tony, Anthony. And he challenged us. He said, you guys write about culture all the time. We've literally written 14 books. Actually, we just published our 15th book on leadership and culture. And he says, do you ever talk about mental health? And we said, no. No, it's not our generation, right? My generation is turn that frown upside down. Rub some dirt on it. It's all about attitude. Rub some dirt on it. Get back in the game. Come on, suck it up, right? He said, yeah, you oldies don't get it. See, he's a millennial, and he's the smartest millennial kid. He's taking courses on DNA stuff, and not only could I not pronounce it, I've got no shot at spelling, the names of his classes. He said, you understand, my generation, the first thing we ask each other is, how are you doing? And what we mean by that is, how are you managing your anxiety? And so we took a deep dive. Let me share some stats with you. In 2018, 18% of employees in America said they were living with some kind of anxiety disorder. 1 in 5. Now, everybody's got anxiety, right? Disorder keeps me from doing my job. By 2022, that jumped to 30%. By the way, these numbers haven't changed. The 2023 numbers came out. It jumped to 30% of everybody. But look at that, 42% of people in their 20s. 42%. And then you find good people that work for you, you want to keep them. 50% of millennials, 75% of Gen Z said they've quit a job for mental health reasons. They quit their jobs. Crazy numbers. Now, here's the question for you, for another carrot. What percent of employees do you think feel safe talking to their managers or leaders about mental health? Give me a percentage, not a number. Just yell it out. 1 is low. 5 is low. 0 is low. 7 is low. 10. Who said 10? Here we go. Excellent. Give me a round of applause. Yes, a little round of applause. So I have to tell you, I was presenting to a bunch of bankers, right, in Italy, and asked them this question. And one guy said, 5. And I said, that's low. And the next guy said, 0. He said, yes, that would also be low. That's why there's a financial crisis in Europe right now. But it's 10%. Now, flip that around. 90% of employees won't talk about mental health. Why? Yell at that. What? Fear. Fear of what? That was a lot. Thank you. That's carrot worthy right there. Yeah. Yes. There's a stigma attached to mental health, right? You break your leg skiing, they go, oh, geez, get some PT, come back when you're ready, get ready. I come and say, boss, I need a break. And you go, really? I told you this was a high-pressure job. You tell me you can't do that now? Not who I thought you were. And it's easier for people to quit, take a break, and go find another job than it is to risk being labeled as weak. So what do we do about it? So what's the solution, right? My generation was, look, you just need to relax, man. Just calm down. In fact, there's an app called Calm. Just download that, right? I came across the greatest quote of all time. Never in the history of calming down has anybody ever calmed down by being told to calm down. You know this with your kids, right? Calm down. I think the yelling helps, right? So if that doesn't work, what do we do? So we talked to a lot of really interesting counselors and psychologists and business leaders and said, so what do you do as a leader or a teammate when you know somebody's suffering and you want to make it safe for them to talk about it? He said, look, back up here. He says 3 things. First, normalize the conversation. And the best way to do that, and again, we talked about modeling, role modeling as leaders. If you talk about your anxiety or when it was tough for you and you share your story, it makes it safe for them to share theirs, right? So you normalize it. Say, look, everybody has anxiety and stuff. Don't worry about it. I've had it too. If you're having a tough day, just come talk to me, because that destigmatizes it. And it makes it safe. You're not going to not get a raise or a promotion or the plum assignment, because we all go through it. It's okay. And then empathize, which is different. Empathy is different than sympathy, right? Sympathy is, it sucks to be you, That's too bad, right? They were talking about the sympathy. I heard this great little podcast. I live in New Jersey. Anybody got a problem with that? Okay, so anyway, talks about East Coast, West Coast. West Coast, they're nice but not kind. Like a guy's got a flat tire on the highway and they drive by and go, oh, that's too bad. But they don't stop. They're nice but not kind. In the East Coast, they're kind but not nice. They'll see with the flat tire, they pull over and they say, what's the matter with you? What do you mean you don't know how to change it? Give me that thing. He said, they will change your tire. That's kind, but they will insult you the whole time. Just come visit me in Jersey. That's very true. So empathize. Empathy is different than sympathy. If you talked to me about 5 or 6 years ago, what are the top characteristics of a leader? I'd say, great communicator, great motivator, gets things done, visionary. Right now, if you want to be a truly great leader and you don't have a high empathy index, you will never be a great leader. Because of the people that you're leading, it's different. And great leaders adjust. Brené Brown, who's read some Brené Brown? Yeah, a professor at the University of Houston. Go Cougars. The other Cougars, I know where we are. She put out this little video, and I want you to watch this video, and I want you to see if there's a couple of concepts that just bounce out to you that maybe make a difference. Listen up.
And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space.
Jumped out there. Any ideas? What? Just yell it out. Opening yourself up to be vulnerable. Tell your story. Yeah, climb down the ladder. You know, I watched this video 100 times before I realized, what's the first thing the bear does? Turns on the light. Turns on the light. Get to their level. Don't climb up the ladder, climb down the ladder. And you sit with them. And you pause. You know, it's so funny because Curtis said to me, there's going to be some high maintenance people in the room. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, good job. Yeah, and it is interesting, right? The concept, though, that I want you to take away is that you're not alone. Isn't that such an important message? I think one of the greatest acts of kindness is when you just sit with someone who's suffering. You know, a dear friend of mine, last August, passed away unexpectedly. Simple medical procedure that went wrong, should have never happened. One of my best friends, great teacher, great leader, great mentor, and they're Jewish. And so we went and sat Shiva. And when you sit Shiva, you sit and you just share their pain. I love that. You go down and you sit, right? So it's interesting. So what do you do when you spot somebody who's struggling? Let me tell you something. That last thing is the thing you don't do. I'm sorry, your name is Shalon? Yeah. You don't come up and say, you know what, Shalon, I heard this guy speak at the Kindness Summit about anxiety, and you check all the boxes. Yeah, I know, seriously. So it's okay, just talk to me, right? You don't do that, right? That just drives people further away. Look for changes in behavior. Anybody can have a bad day, but somebody who never loses their temper loses their temper. Somebody who's never late starts showing up late, right? Somebody who always participates is more withdrawn. And if that persists, you know something's up. That's your key. So then, how do you start the conversation? If it's not, hey, you check all the boxes. You start the conversation with, hey, I noticed. Isn't that interesting? You know, I just noticed that you've had a tough time coming to work on time. Is there something going on that maybe we can help you get, you know, if only you had a carrot. Because she said, oh, there's only 3 left, yeah. And by the way, those acting lessons really paid off. That was very, very sincere. Anyway, I've noticed, when you say I've noticed, your brain translates that to I care. Because if I've taken enough time to watch and notice and sit with you, it means I care. And if I know you care about me, I'm going to be more safe or in a safer place to share. Isn't that interesting? So it's really interesting. Look at these numbers. 91%, this is Robert Half, a study that was done this year, 91% of employees right now consider themselves somewhat, if not totally burned out. 9 out of 10. That's a ridiculous number. And by the way, it's so interesting. When somebody comes to you and they have a problem, and we're leaders and we're really smart, what do we want to do? We want to get to the solution, the answer right now. In fact, before they even finish asking the question, we've got the answer, we've got the solution. Have you ever done that? Yeah, because why? Because we're the leaders, we're really smart. I've done this before. I've been doing this for a long time. I know exactly what you're talking about. Let's just do this, this, and this, send in the next guy. Great leader. Sometimes people don't want the solution. They just want you to listen. Now, I found this video on the internet about the importance of listening, and because it was on the internet, I'm pretty sure it's true. So listen up and see if you hadn't had an experience kind of like this. At this place, and she said, Dad, I've got this issue at work. I'm like, yes! When was the last time your grown children asked you for advice? Right? I'm like just glowing. I said, oh, really? Have you tried this and this and this? And I said, by the way, I'm one of the top executive coaches on the planet, and I'm going to give you all this advice for free. I mean, this is big, right? And we're talking, and I said, does any of that make sense, Cassie? There was this pause, and she said, Dad, I don't always need a coach. Sometimes I just need a dad. Right? Listen, just listen. Look at this. Employees who report being burned out are 63% more likely to take sick leaves, more than 2.5 times likely to quit. Employers that have a manager who's willing to listen Just listen to work-related problems are 62%. Sometimes that simple act of time, that simple gift of kindness that just says, let's just talk it out. Just listen. Take a pause, take a beat, and listen, right? Well, that's emotional safety, right? Where people can do their best work. Everybody's voice matters. Everybody gets to speak up. Everybody's valued. I loved our faith leaders. When you look at everybody like your brother and sister, it changes. You wouldn't treat your brother and sister like that. Well, maybe you would, but in good families, right? So I love this. This is one of the, sign up for this, by the way. You get a little daily act of kindness. It takes courage to be kind. Maya Angelou helped a loved one by offering to do a chore or take a task off their plate. International Space Station. Let me make the meal. Let me clean the equipment. Something simple, right? And I love this. So how do we do it? We're in the home stretch here. You guys still with me? Can I get amen? Give me a little hallelujah. Here we go, because this is how you do it. You give it now, you give it often, you're specific, you're sincere. It's the soft stuff that's the hard stuff. I like when they talked about that. Look, it takes work. Anything that's valued takes work, and it's a discipline, right? It's the soft stuff that makes the hard stuff easier, right? And this is the stuff that your mom and dad told you when you were 5 years old. What did your mom and dad teach you? Remember to say, please and thank you. Clean up after yourself. Don't push, don't hit, don't bite. That bite thing is still good advice there, Roland. Yeah. And this is my mom and dad. Give it up for Dalton and Irene. I know. Now, my mom loves that I show this picture, but she's gotten kind of high tech. So she recorded a little message of advice for you here today, as mothers are wont to do.
We're Jess's mom and dad, and we've been married 64 years. So listen up. He's got a lot of things to tell you. And for heaven's sake, buy a lot of books.
Yeah, what she said.
Give it up for Dalton. So I'm here to tell you that being kind is not a soft skill, it's a power skill. Being kind is not a soft skill, it is a power skill. And how do you do it? Do it now. You see somebody needs something, don't hesitate. Do it now. You think you'll remember. Oh, we'll catch up at the end of the week or the end of the day. No, you won't. You get busy. Do it now. We love sports analogies, right? When you win, the Pac-12 or tennis champion, when they give them the trophy right away, right? Or you win the Pac-12 in the football. When do they give them the trophy? They don't say go back to the locker room, take a shower, put on something nice, come on back. No, you win it, you won it, right? Real Salt Lake when they won the MLS Cup. Look at that confetti's coming down. They give it now. Now. When you win the big game in football, in the United States of America, we have this weird tradition that the players do for the coach. What is it? Gatorade bath. Boosh. Does the coach enjoy that?
Yes.
Why?
Because it affirms everything that he's been doing with those grassroots.
And it means you've won. He has dreamed of that moment. You'll notice they don't do that for the losing coach. Can you imagine? Boosh. Hey! We lost, and now I'm all sticky. No. And can you imagine if the players forgot to do it, but then 2 weeks later, the coach was at the mall with his family, and somebody, boosh, no! You do it now, primacy, recency. You have that urge to be kind, you do it now. You do it now. I've got a guy that we interviewed for one of our books. His name's Carlos Aguilera. He works at Avis Budget Rental Car. And at first, he was what was called a seagull manager. Have you ever heard of that? Seagulls, he'd fly in, he'd crap all over everything and fly out, right? He'd point out everything that was going wrong, and he'd like the seagull manager. And his mentor said, you've got to understand there's lots of little things that go right every day. You got to celebrate those too. So to remind himself, he puts 10 pennies in his left pocket every day. And he looks for 10 positive interactions with his people every day. And the way he does it, he moves a penny from his left pocket to his right pocket. I challenge you to do it. 10, it's a lot. Now, he can't always be with his people. Maybe he texts them, maybe he calls them, a little handwritten note, little team meeting. Lots of ways to do it, right? He went from being one of the most, nobody wanted to see him, to the manager everybody wanted to see. Now, I know what you're thinking. Rental cars. It's all unicorns and rainbows. Nothing ever goes wrong with a rental car, right? Except when people, crash it or throw up in it. Where's the rabbi? Yeah, and things go wrong. You've got to talk to people and have those tough conversations, but they're more willing to listen to you because you didn't just show up to beat them up. It was a learning moment. You're coaching them up. You're teaching them up, right? I challenge you to do it. So it brings us to the question. I brought a copy of one of our latest book called Leading with Gratitude. And I want to give it out on this side of the room here. Let's go over. Ooh, we've got some students here. They still read books. Your name is? Maggie. Maggie? So Maggie, here's your skill testing question for the book. Are you pretty excited? Okay, good. So what's the ratio of positive and negative in the ideal workplace? Is it 1-to-1, so 1 compliment to every criticism, 2 compliments to every criticism, 3 compliments to every criticism, or 5-to-1? Just intuitively, which one would you go with here, Maggie?
I think it's 5-to-1.
5-to-1. Congratulations! That is higher education at work right there, yeah. 5-to-1. 1-to-1 is negative, 2-to-1 is negative, 3-to-1 is neutral, 4, 5. Harvard did a study, it's 5.6, you could round it up, right? 5 or 6. Simple acts of kindness every day creates such a positive impact in the workplace. And then do it often. Now, I get a lot of pushback on this, right? Too much kindness, too much recognition, too much gratitude. How many just do a little, we're going to vote here soon in the nation, right? Show of hands. How many of you think you can actually get too much in the work? You can get too much praise, too much kindness? Anybody? How many not enough? Okay, not enough. How many of you don't vote? Because you're Americans. Anyway, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, but it's kind of true. Anyway, I think in our personal lives, we get this, right? We'll do this again. You don't have to participate. I hope you do. Raise your hands. How many of you right now in your personal lives consider yourselves madly in love? Madly in love and happily married. Can I talk to you? Your hand is, come on up on the stage. Give me some encouragement here. Get our microphone. Yeah, we're running out of time. Pick up the pace.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay. So your name is?
Curtis.
Curtis. And you are madly in love.
Yes, with
Happily married. Ooh, she's here.
Yes.
Good call. Yeah, good call. How long have you been married?
6 months. You know what they're all thinking?
Rookie. Yeah, rookie. So I'm just curious. So how often do you do or say something that says, I love you?
We were actually talking about this the other day. Probably like 30 times a day.
30 times a day. Yeah. That's too much. No, really. No, I wrote the book. It was a bestseller, so pay attention, okay? So wouldn't it be better like 30 times a day, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Wouldn't it be better if you just had like a year-end banquet? You know, I mean, a nice dinner, you know. Instead of like, you know, and anniversaries and birthdays, Valentine's, that's just made up, right? Wouldn't it be better if you just really loaded up and did it one time a year? Wouldn't that be better?
No way.
Why?
Because I love her every day.
Everybody. I know. Yeah, it's really interesting. And when you say I love you and she says I love you back, how does that make you feel?
The best feeling in the world.
Can you hear it too much?
No.
You can't. You can't hear it too much. See, I love you in your personal life translates to thank you in the workplace. Don't get that mixed up, okay? Yeah. No. It can cause legal all kind of problems, you know what I'm saying? So what do we have for you, madly in love? We have his and her carrots. Whoa! Give it up. Hey, awesome. Yeah, we get that in our personal lives, right? We get it. And then we come to work, we're doing all this stuff we forget, right? And then be specific, right? If you remember one thing about being kind, it's that general praise has no impact. You ever had one of those managers comes to work, hey, great job. You're the best. You're number one. Like finger guns just blazing, you know. Gets very annoying very quickly. Specificity. What is it that they did was kind? What did you do specifically? Because then they can replicate that behavior, right? It's really interesting. And be sincere. People know when you're not being sincere, right? I love this too. That, you know, you appreciate me, that's great. But if you know my story and you appreciate my family, now we're family, right? I want to tell you a quick story. I used to work for a great guy, Kent Murdoch, and I traveled all over. And I remember I was at Dulles Airport. You been to Dulles Airport? Yeah, I'm looking for my connecting flight. Dulles Airport is kind of designed for you to miss your connecting flight if you've ever been. So you know the drill. You're on your phone, wheelie backpack, and I'm talking to Kent about some customer. We solve the problem. I hang up. Phone rings again. Caller ID. It's my lovely wife, Heidi. The call you pick up no matter where you are, right? Pick it up. I go, honey, what's the matter? What's up? She said, you're not going to believe what just happened. She goes, a guy just dropped off 24 beautiful long-stemmed orange roses to the house. And at first, I thought they were from you. And I knew they weren't. And I was curious who they were from. You know? The little note, it was from Kent, the guy just hung up. It said, Heidi, thanks for taking care of all the big things at home, so Chester can do big things on the road for us. Sacrifice isn't lost on us. Enjoy the flowers. All the best, Kent. I know. Now, did he give her 24 red roses? No, that would have been inappropriate. Husband's on the road. You know, we wrote a book called The 24-Carat Manager. So I don't know if you picked up that orange is kind of our color. Did you check out the socks? Yeah. They're hard to find, but when you do, almost always on sale. It's a bonus. The point is, 24 carats orange, those little acts of kindness made all the difference. How do you think it made me feel being on the road for Kent? 2 thumbs up. How do you think it made my wife feel about me being away from home? Because here's how the conversation ended. She said, where are you, Chess? I said, I'm at Dulles Airport. I'm looking for my connecting flight. She said, don't you dare miss that flight. Those are good people you're working for. Right? Now, it's really interesting. In our family, we've got this weird tradition. Like when somebody does something great, we don't just say, hey, great job, great job. We go up and say, you know what? That was wow. Wow. See, it spells wow. Wow. This is mom. This is wow. Don't have a cow. Ooh, boo. You'll use that. Okay, so the point is, make it memorable, right? Do little things, a little letter to the family, a little handwritten note. How many of you ever received a handwritten note? How many of you kept it? Why? Because it was personal. It was that little touch, that little extra kindness. A pat on the back, a Rolex watch. Nothing says I love you like Rolex. But it's a simple pat on the back, not a slap to the head. There's a difference, right? It's a spatial thing. He does not see that coming. Right? Boom. And by the way, if you want to make your day a little better, we heard this about, right? When you're ill, when you're hard times, go serve. Go serve somebody. Go out and appreciate somebody else. You know, be kind. Because it's what your parents taught you, right? The more you give, the more you get. It's better to give than receive. Because when you give, you always receive. Well, it's really interesting. We did this earlier today. So you don't have to do it right now, but I hope you'll do it again. Take out your phone and text somebody and just tell them you love them. Just thinking about just love you. I did this at a conference in Las Vegas. We had a little book signing. A woman comes up to me and said, I texted my daughter at university. I just told her how much I love her, and she texted back, I love you too, Mom. She got kind of emotional. I said, well, isn't that kind of the expected response? She said, no, we don't tell each other we love her a lot in our family. That meant the world to me, that little act. Next guy comes up to me, he says, yeah, I texted my wife. I said, honey, at this conference in Las Vegas, I just want to let you know I'm thinking about you and how much I love you. She texted me back. So you're all alone in Las Vegas, and you're texting me that you love me. What have you done? I said, well, do it more. You'll get better answers, right? I love this quote from Mother Teresa, right? Be kind and merciful. Let no one ever come to you without coming away better and happier. Be the living expression of God's kindness. It costs you nothing to be kind, and it can make the difference to everyone. And then take it home. The thing I love about the work we do is it works in the workplace. We've got all the data to prove it. Don't leave it at work. Take it home. Teach your kids how to serve. I got a friend, they have this ritual at dinner. How many of you have kids in school and they come to dinner and you say, how was school? Fine. What did you learn? Nothing, right? He said, we changed it. 3 questions. What was the best part of your day? Who are you grateful for who's not at the table? And who are you grateful for who's at the table, who hasn't been thanked yet? He said at first our kids were like, geez, Dad, come on. You're always doing stuff like this. He said, I knew we'd crossed the Rubicon when my daughter invited her friend over for dinner. And I heard him in the hallway. And she said, no, so at dinner you're going to have to answer 3 questions, okay? Don't embarrass me. Answers. And I love this, right? The prophet said, indeed among the believers with the most complete faith is the one who is the best in conduct and the most kind to his family. That's where it starts. That's where it starts. That's where it always starts. And look at this. On the business standpoint, people that are engaged at work and feel happy and appreciated are 150% more likely to be happy in their personal lives. We spend so much time at work. The ripple effect, if you create great places to work where they're engaged, they feel valued, you've been kind, it ripples through their families, their neighbors, their communities. I love that. Quick story about my dad. That's my dad. I'm 4 years old. I was born in Edmonton, Alberta. My dad's teaching me how to skate. Now, if you're 4 years old in Edmonton, Alberta, and you don't know how to skate, the neighbors talk. What's with the Elton kid? Well, we moved to Vancouver when I was 10 years old, and we're a tennis family. And I got to play Saturday morning tennis. My dad and I had a ritual. We'd play tennis at the Vancouver Lawn Tennis and Badminton Club. And then we'd go to McDonald's to get a McMuffin. And then we'd often go to the Army and Navy. You know these Army and Navy's distressed inventory, you get 10 cents on it. My dad loved a bargain. So, beautiful summer day. We go to play tennis. We had the McMuffin. We go to Army and Navy. And we had to go by Pigeon Park. Army and Navy, it was in Gastown. Kind of a sketchy neighborhood. And as we were going there, there was a Pigeon Park where a lot of the homeless people lived. Sure enough, a homeless lady was coming across this crosswalk. Big paper sack, everything she owned. Split open, spilled on the sidewalk. Nothing you and I'd want to own, everything she owned. Vancouver's a walking city. Everybody just walked right by, except for my dad. I'll never forget. He went up to her right away, knelt down, gathered up all her stuff, said something made her laugh, and escorted her safely to the park. Now, I'm a teenager at this point, right? And I'm watching this. My dad comes back and I said, Dad, probably shouldn't touch those homeless people. They're not clean. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, Chess, you be kind to everyone. Everybody's having a tough day. Everybody. That's what I loved about my dad. If you were bagging his groceries or parking his car, or you were a captain of industry, it didn't matter. You were important. He wanted to know your story. And he was always kind. Always. Well, little acts of kindness are just little acts of love. Remember we said that our children teach us how to be kind? This is one of my favorite videos that I found. This is wisdom from a 4-year-old.
We have to leave with Steve Hartman and what everyone can learn.
Who's going to vote for Austin P. Ryan? Last idea I want to share with you, and this was really powerful, that my mentor taught me. He said, you know, as leaders in our communities or our businesses or whatever, we want to solve everybody's problems. We're here today for this magnificent summit. Is it going to solve the discourse? Is it going to make everybody all of a sudden kind? No. The thing is, you don't have to solve all their problems. Austin P. Ryan didn't solve the hunger problem, but you know what he gave those homeless people? He gave them a good minute. And sometimes, when life is really hard, you just need somebody to reach out to you and be a little kind and give you a good minute, and maybe another minute, and maybe another minute. We can't solve the world's problems, but we can do that. We can give people a good minute. We can be kind, and we can do it at least once a day. I love this quote. Human kindness has never weakened the stamina or softened the fiber of a free people. A nation does not have to be cruel to be tough. We can be kind. Take the pledge. It's on your program. Scan that little QR code. Make a commitment today that you'll at least start. You won't be good at it right away, and that's okay. Anything worth doing is hard. It's a discipline, but you can do it. And we've got a little gift for you in your bag. You know, when we talked about mental health, we had 8 strategies on how to deal with anxiety in the workplace. The 8th strategy is a gratitude ritual. How do you start your day? How do you end your day? You can't hold 2 emotions at the same time. You can't be anxious and be grateful. And if you have a choice, pick gratitude. It's better. And we give you a gift from the Tsunami family to help you develop a simple little ritual of gratitude. Well, I love this last quote from the Dalai Lama. Be kind whenever possible. And by the way, it is always possible. So my last question for you is this. Will you take what you've learned today and what we will learn in the next hour and a half? Will you take it and will you apply it to your personal life and to your businesses? Will you do that? Wasn't quite the response I was hoping for. Okay. Yeah, as the minister of motivation at the end of the sermon, the preacher asked for an affirmation from the congregation. What does the congregation say? Amen. Can I get a hallelujah? Hallelujah. Can I get a wow? I say you be, you say kind, you be, you be, you be. That's my time. I appreciate you guys.